a boxing betting expert.
I know, David.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
He really gets into the nitty-gritty of this whole thing.
Zane, good to see you.
David, good to see you as well.
So I'm excited about this because I know you've got hands-on experience. So our background is we met about a year ago. And I remember one of the first conversations we had was about some of the big Saudi fights coming up, and you had some decent bets going on there. And I was like, I need to know this guy. So I'm very excited to get into this and understand your background in the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'll give you just a quick intro and sort of like how I got into boxing. I actually, so I started off doing karate when I was like super young. My dad loved karate, grew up with my dad watching all like the big Bruce Lee films. So combat was like always a part of my life. My mum let me go to boxing when I was 12. That's when I first went to a boxing gym. Like I literally had to fight with my mum to let me go. I think like every mum's probably like a little bit scared to let their son go to boxing. And then I boxed on and off as a teenager. I never had any fights at that point. It wasn't until later on I had my first ever MMA fight when I was 18. So I actually went from boxing into MMA. So I had two semi-professional MMA fights, and then unfortunately dislocated my shoulder when I was doing MMA, and that's what got me back into boxing again. And I had two amateur boxing fights when I was 20.
So was the dislocation in a fight?
No, it was at training.
Right.
So when we were rolling around and we were doing like groundwork, and actually I fell to the side and my arm was trapped and I actually dislocated my shoulder at training.
So that meant no more. Literally, you had to change disciplines.
Yeah, like the thing is with MMA, like the train's quite heavy because you're standing up, you're taking kicks, you're rolling around. Like it's really easy to get injured. I was always black and blue when I was doing MMA.
Yeah. So what sort of rehab was that to get back into the like traditional boxing then?
So I've done so much rehab on my shoulder. Like bar hands is great for like the shoulder girdle, like strengthening that up. Just general weights as well.
Yeah.
Also, there's one I love where you bring your arm all the way around in a circle. And that works as a rotator cuff, and you use light weights for that. But yeah, the main thing with the shoulder injury is like you keep it moving. And because we're all sat at a desk these days, and like it's really bad because we don't actually use our shoulder in the way that we should. Whereas back in the day, people used to be climbing and moving a lot. So I think that's one of the main reasons. But yeah, it's fine now. It's pretty good. Like I still hit the bags and everything, no problem.
So got in. So 12. That's a young age to get into it. So was your father a boxer, or was he a big boxing fan?
So he's always watched the boxing. He's always liked combat stuff. He never actually boxed. My dad played cricket, did sprinting, but really big cricketer. So my dad's actually Jamaican.
Yeah.
But he loved boxing. He used to watch all of the big fights. He was a really big Tyson fan. So my dad got me into Tyson.
Yeah.
And to be honest, one of the things I remember growing up was me and my dad used to like. When you're a young kid, you want to stay up late, right? And your mum's always like, "Oh, you have to go to your bed." No, you need to go to your bed. But if there was a big fight on, my mum would let me stay up late to watch it with my dad. So obviously back then, right, a lot of the fights were in Vegas or maybe in New York or wherever. They were all American based.
Yeah.
So we would obviously stay up, 3, 4, 5 in the morning watching the boxing. And it was great, like some really good memories.
Which one? Do you remember one that stands out? The first one when you're like a young kid and watching a Vegas fight?
Oh, which one stands out? Do you know the one that stands out? It certainly wasn't the first one we watched, but when Mayweather fought Ricky Hatton, that fight stands out. And me and my dad sat up and watched that. And do you know what? Like I'm a Ricky Hatton fan. I like Ricky Hatton, and obviously I'm a Mayweather fan as well. Right, Mayweather's brilliant. I don't know why I was so excited for it. I was almost like had this feeling like, is Ricky going to be the guy to beat him?
Yeah.
And I remember the first few rounds, like Ricky Hatton went out aggressive, and he kind of like shook Mayweather. Mayweather was a bit, but then obviously he got into stride
Yeah.
And then he ended up knocking him out.
That was a brilliant fight to like get into it, because it's a perfect boxing match because there was so much hype. It was a British guy with loads of fans fighting an unbeaten American legend in Vegas. It had all the ingredients for perfect sort of getting into the sport. Okay, so you've done like boxing and MMA at a serious level that most people haven't done. So does that help you when it comes to like assessing matchups? Like you see things in the Hatton Mayweather fight, but before if you're looking to place a bet, or you're looking at Joshua versus this guy, does the actual boxing itself that you've done help you there?
I think so. I think it helps you. I think anything in life, if you've got in the trenches and you've actually done it, right, it lets you see it from a different perspective. But I think as well, like sometimes if you've done a sport, then you've got biases to certain things, right? So like if I use MMA as an example, I prefer stand-up fighting. Boxing was my first sort of discipline. Karate, it's kicking, punching. So, if I watch an MMA fight, I'll always like sway towards the guy who keeps the fight standing, even though he might be getting beat on points, right? Because he's getting taken down or whatever. So again, in boxing, if you're an aggressive fight, if you like people that are aggressive, you might start saying, well, the other guy's fighting aggressively, so I'll put my money on him. He's winning, but actually it might be the guy who's fighting on his back foot and he's a bit more slick. He's a counter puncher. He could be the guy that's actually ahead on points. So you have to be careful with the biases.
That's so interesting, Zane, because you've been like studying the sport for sort of 10, 20 years. I spoke to a guy recently who's been studying it since the 60s, and he made that same point. He made the same point you've just made. So, and I've never heard that before. So that's brilliant. So, who would be your favorite boxer to watch, either as a kid or right now?
So I'll give you two answers. I think like I've definitely got a soft spot for Tyson because like he like my dad loved him. And I think so many people love him, even like if you're not like a diehard boxing fan, like he's known throughout the world and just his story. But I think as a kid, I used to love watching like the YouTube videos, and me and my dad would watch YouTube videos of him like and his like knockout reels. But I think right now, my favorite boxer is Usyk. I'm a huge Usyk fan. I could probably talk about him for hours.
Awesome.
Just so many, obviously technically he's great, right? But his fitness is fantastic, but his mental strength is phenomenal, and he's a professional. He's respectful to everybody he fights. Look at what his country's going through as well, and he's still at the top of his game. So yeah, I've got a lot of respect for him.
Brilliant. Okay, so one of the questions I wanted to ask now was the mythical matchup, but I'm going to do it now. So, how would you see a mythical matchup between Tyson and Usyk?
So you know what, I was thinking about this before I came on here, and it's interesting because if it was like Tyson in his prime, when he was like young, Custamato was still alive, like it's so hard because he was so technically good as well. And I don't know. I think it's a hard one because I would put money on Tyson being able to knock anybody out when he's in his prime.
Yeah,
like I really do.
Interesting. Okay, brilliant. So have you ever seen any fights live? Do you ever go to the fights?
I've never actually seen a boxing fight live. It's something I am desperate to do. Me and the missus, we were looking at going out to Saudi. Last year we were going to do it, and then we decided not to. But it's definitely in the cards. We'll definitely get out there. I've seen amateur like fights and stuff live. I've never seen a professional fight live. I've never been to a big event. Away from the boxing world, I have been to a Cage Warriors event. So that's Cage Warriors is I don't know if you've heard of it, but they're like a European MMA organization. So they're not quite as big as the UFC, but a lot of the guys that do well at Cage Warriors typically will go on to fight in the UFC. So I've been to one of their events, which was pretty good.
So what's the best fight you remember seeing on TV then?
On TV, well, one that springs to mind, right? One of the best fights I've seen. It wasn't on TV, but it was. I watched it on YouTube. It was Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward. I don't know if you've seen the trilogy. But yeah. I just like the thing about that fight. It literally, it was they were just going back and forward. The momentum was changing back and forward. I think those guys must have taken, I don't know how many punches both of them took.
Did they fight? They had 3 10-rounders, didn't they?
I think it could have went the distance all three times. But they definitely had 3 fights. But it was phenomenal. I'll still go back and watch those on YouTube. If I'm just randomly sitting through it,
So I've not watched them since they happened, but yeah, they're probably worth a revisit. And sometimes you forget, you forget how dramatic and action-packed they were. It's shocking to see it when you go back after a few years.
I think I don't know if these days the referees would let the fights go on like that.
Yeah.
I think there's obviously, there's a lot of not just in boxing, but rugby and other sports. Like, I feel like there's a lot more focus on safety, right? Getting head injuries and obviously what can happen to athletes later down the line. But yeah, I don't think the refs would let the fights go on like that. Those 2 guys, I mean, their faces were literally swollen, but that's what gets people talking about it, right?
So they were lower in the weight division. So do you have a favorite weight division to watch now?
Do you know what? Again, we'll go back to biases here, right? I have 2 favorite weight divisions. Obviously, heavyweight, right? Everybody likes watching the heavyweights. It's the biggest men, powerful men. It can change within like one punch. But I myself, I'm a welterweight. That's what I fought at, obviously as an amateur. So I've got a bias towards that weight. But I genuinely think some of the best fighters have fought around the welterweight, middleweight sort of division.
Exactly. Brilliant. Okay, so boxing is a sport that goes hand in hand with controversy. So if Zane could change one rule to the sport, add a rule, change a rule, what would that be?
Cool. I'm allowed 2.
You're allowed as many as you like. You go for it.
So the first one's a realistic one, right? The second one's a bit, I think it's not as realistic, but I actually think this could be really good, right? And I was having a think about boxing, and one of the things I feel like boxing hasn't really evolved much. Do you know what I mean? We see like football, for example, they've got like VAR and now they're changing things. I feel like boxing hasn't really evolved too much. It's still in a similar form to what it used to be. And I think one thing that I've found has really frustrated me over the years is like some of the points decisions and the judging. What I think could be a game changer is like if they open the scorecard like after every round. So let's imagine, like after round 1, I don't know if maybe the coaches or even the fighters, they can see what all 3 judges have scored that as.
So only the fighters, not the audience.
Well, again, this is, I don't know. We would, I mean, there's a million ways we can do this, but something along that lines, even maybe the audience can see it as well. But I think if you imagine, right, you're in like round 5 and you know that you're behind on the scorecards, that means you have to go for it, right? So it changes the fight. And I think as well, it puts judges under a bit more scrutiny, right? If they know that after every round, people will know what they've said, it almost forces them to,
like that,
be a bit more honest. So I think that could be a good one.
And you said you
would so the other one, and it's again, it's probably a bit barbaric, but like how many times have we seen, for example, when Usyk and Fury fought, right? Usyk, I thought easily could have won that fight. The ref could have easily stopped that, I think in the ninth round. But he was saved by the bet. Like the round closed, the round was finished, and then he obviously had a chance to recover. So if there was no rounds in boxing, that's it. The fight just starts, and they just keep going until somebody wins.
That's amazing. I wonder. Great one. I mean, that sort of thing you can imagine happening is in an offshoot that someone says, right, we've got this new format. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's made me think. Yeah, brutal.
I think the only thing with it though is obviously it is brutal, right? And it's, you know, it opens up the possibility for people getting badly injured. You know, people get tired, you get caught with a bad punch. Do you know what I mean?
So instead of 12 rounds, you literally just say, right, this is a 45-minute contest. Go for it.
Yeah, just that's it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, brilliant. So what? That's no one's even said that before. I love that. So this is going to be, given that you've said that, I'm interested to hear what your best hot take has been. So where you've seen a fight in the future and just thought, I absolutely know what's happening here. These styles match up perfectly, and you could see the future. What's the best hot take you've had?
Where I've seen styles. Let me have a think about that one. So do you know what? See, before the Anthony Joshua fight, when he fought Dubois,
Yeah.
I said it. I said it multiple times. I said I think Dubois is gonna. I think he's going to come out and put it on him and shock him.
Yeah.
I've seen when Dubois fought Hergovich, right?
Yeah.
Came out like almost like a caged lion, and he did really well.
Yeah.
And I think Anthony Joshua, I definitely think he's past his best now, and I think he's wary of getting hit, right?
Yeah.
And I think he holds back a bit.
Yeah.
And I saw it before the fight. I said it. I know if Dubois comes out like that, aggressive, he's going to do him, and he did.
Nice one. That's a brilliant one. Okay, yeah, I can agree with you more on that one. And what about when you've got it wrong, where you just thought, I know what's happening here, and it's been a cold take, and you just got it completely wrong?
So the last Wardley, Fraser Clark and Wardley, that last fight, completely got that wrong.
Yeah.
Lost the bet, lost some money on that. I just didn't. To be honest, just didn't see it happening at all.
Yeah, no one did. Like that was. If anyone said Wardley was going to win that in 90 seconds the way he did, I didn't hear anyone say it. Everyone thought it was going long. Everyone thought it was a 50-50. Brutal fight as well. That was jeepers.
And I think as well, because of the cut Wardley got in the first fight, I just thought it would open up again.
Same.
And I thought, like, well, Clark, he knows he can cut him. He knows he's got the scar tissue on his nose. He'll target that. But I think like, look, it's a fight. Anything can happen.
Well,
and I think back to your point, David, about like how has basically me fighting as a sport, how has that helped me look at fights and analyze them? That's one thing I can say is, like, once you get in that ring, you know, even if you're at training, like, you just might not be feeling it that day. You might be feeling a bit off. Your energy could go. You might get a big adrenaline rush, all of that stuff, and it can just impact how you are on the night. And I think whatever happened to Fraser Clark that night, just wasn't his night.
And especially in the heavyweights, like we see it often, like fights that you think are going to go long and they're over in the first round, and you just it can happen. Okay. So who would you say is the most overrated boxer that you've sort of been aware of in your time?
This is an easy one. I don't even know if I could call him a boxer, but Jake Paul.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, because like, honestly, like, I could talk about Jake Paul and how he is. I'm not a massive fan of him. Obviously, you can probably tell. So again, I've got a bias, but I think he's so overhyped. Like, I've heard so many people saying, like, you know, he's actually a really great boxer, and he's beating. You know, he's only fought one boxer, Tommy Fury.
Yeah.
And he got beaten by Tommy Fury. And Tommy Fury is not, you know, he's not a top 10, 15 or top 20 boxer at his weight class. Right?
Yeah.
So to me, he's an overhyped boxer. And he is a boxer now. That's another thing. People call him a YouTuber, but no, he's a sanctioned professional boxer.
Yeah. It's weird. Like, he's calling out like Canelo Alvarez and all these guys now, and even Better Biev was saying he'd go. And so it's just, it's a bit weird. But fair play to him. He's conning enough people. He's making a lot of money from it. Okay, so
from a business point of view, David, I mean, we can all learn a lot from him, right?
I think a lot of he's incredibly disliked. I think there's a lot of the hatred towards him is jealousy that someone who's got a skill set that doesn't look that impressive has made him a multi-millionaire, and everyone's just a bit like, I don't like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
What about,
there's always going to be envy, from people like who wouldn't want to, be in the spotlight. I mean, getting the chance to fight Mike Tyson and making millions from it, and like most people would, right? But yeah, he's not my favorite person.
no, a fair one. And so, what about, have you, in your experience, like of the MMA and the boxing, have you met any sort of pros that we'd know of?
So I've not met any sort of big like icons that you guys would know, but I've trained in the same gyms as some guys that have been pro.
Okay.
When I was boxing, there's a guy called Kevin Anderson. So he's from the local area where I'm from, in Scotland, and he fought. I don't know if he fought for a British title.
Okay.
I'll have a quick look. But he's on like BoxRec and stuff, so you can
Right.
see his record. But he fought.
Was he your division as well, was he?
He was. I think he was welterweight. Yeah, he was welterweight. But he had a few. I remember he had one big fight again. His biggest fight. Oh, so he fought for the Commonwealth Boxing Council. I think that's a belt. I'm just looking at it there in BoxRec. He fought a guy called Young Mutley. I don't know if you remember him. Yeah, I think that was his biggest fight. I think he beat him, but yeah. So I used to train at the same. So it's my friend. His uncle actually runs a gym up in Scotland. So there's a couple pros, like sort of lower level pros that trained there and fought there.
And you were obviously quite a high level. Could you see the levels between him and you?
Oh yeah, I was I was an amateur sort of boxer. So I mean, like these guys, like absolutely, like it just all the way down to like how hard they hit, the way they move, like
Right.
yeah. There's definite levels. Like if you go in the ring with these guys, they'll have to take it easy with you, right? Because if they want to turn it up and go through the gears, like they could.
I've seen a video of one of your fight. It was an MMA fight, and I watched it all on. I think it was on YouTube, and I watched it all, and I'm thinking, wow, I don't want to mess with this guy. You and you're. There's no more sport. There's no more extreme sport for having levels in it than combat sports.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think obviously to divert to the MMA, I used to train with a guy called Stephen Ray at the same gym as him, and he was like, I think he was the third or fourth person in Scotland to get a UFC contract.
Right.
So he had quite a lot of. He'd done quite well. So he had quite a few UFC fights.
Wow.
I'm not sure if he's still fighting, but yeah, I sparred with him a couple of times, and again, like like they have to. If they want to turn it up, they'll turn it up, and you can see the difference between you and them. And then the other, it's great. It's great. And then I think the other thing as well, right? If you are sparring or you fight somebody who's a few weight classes above you, who's actually good, then physically it's just going to be too much as well.
Brilliant experience to have. Okay, what's the most? Can you think of the most surprising upset you've seen in the boxing ring?
Surprising upset. Let me think. Oh, yeah, and I was watching this fight. So when Joshua got knocked out by what's the Mexican guy called?
Andy Ruiz.
Andy Ruiz, yeah. That was, I never saw that coming. Yeah. I literally thought that Joshua was, this was just going to, the way I saw it is, Joshua's just going to knock this guy out, move on to the next person. But yeah, you never.
That was up there at the time with like Tyson Douglas, as in like no one saw that coming. That was like huge. Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. What about any standout pieces of terrible sportsmanship you've seen, boxing or MMA?
Yeah, I mean, there's one. I mean, a lot of people probably say this, right? But since we're on the Tyson topic, obviously when he bit Holyfield's ear off, I mean, obviously it's not great, right? It's definitely not. It's definitely not great. That wasn't great. Yeah. But I think one of the worst ones I've seen in boxing was it was on the one of the Jake Paul undercards. He had this MMA fighter guy boxing somebody. I forget his name, and he started like trying to like take him down.
Oh, right.
In the ring. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name if it's
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, definitely. Dylan Danis.
Right.
That's the guy. He's called Dylan Danis,
So
and
he just switched codes.
yeah, he was. I don't know who it was that he fought. He fought in the undercard. Let me see, boxing record. So yeah, he's got one. Logan Paul. That's who it is.
Oh,
So
right.
he fought Logan Paul. Yeah, so he fought Jake Paul's brother.
Right.
And he was just the sportsmanship was really bad. He basically was getting beat, and he was. I don't know if he was like trying to take him down or like threatening to like kick him or whatever. So it was pretty. Yeah, check it out. You'll like it.
What about, so you talked at the start about sort of how you assess the fights, but is there anything else that you think you do differently to other people that allows you to get a better insight when assessing fights?
I think. I mean, to be honest, I don't think I've got anything like specifically that like I do. I mean, I'll do it round by round. Obviously, I'm trying to see like as someone throwing like punches that are scoring.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because quite a lot of times, sometimes people be throwing punches and they're just coming off the guard. Like when Bivol fought Beterbiev, Bivol was throwing a lot of punches, but some of those punches Beterbiev was like he was taking them on his guard. Do you know what I mean? So like looking for little things like that, and then one thing I look for as well, and like it's part of the scoring is like looking at how somebody commanding the ring. Like are they controlling the ring? Are they pushing the person to where they want to push them? Are they pressuring them? I think, for example, Usyk does a really good job of that. Like he kind of controls you and keeps you under that constant pressure.
That ring generalship, absolutely, and it's the effective aggression. It's not just blatant aggression; it's effective aggression that you're looking for.
Exactly.
And what about boxing's great for sound bites? Any favorite quotes over the years that stand out that you think, yeah, that's a good one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of like the Rocky Balboa films. I don't know if you're a big fan of them yourself. I mean, like, I feel like if you like boxing, it's hard not to like Rocky.
Yeah. That's why I like sport. Rocky got me into boxing as a kid. Yeah.
Oh, really? Is that how you got into it? Yeah. There we go. So I like a lot of the Rocky quotes. There's loads. But the famous one is when he talks about it's not how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can get hit.
Yeah.
That one's good. I like his old coach Mickey as well. I love some of those quotes and stuff. So
actually, that Mickey character, a lot of his quotes. You mentioned Customato earlier. A lot of his quotes were based on what Customato had said to Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Yeah.
There's a famous. So now we're on the topic. Actually, it just came to my mind. One of my favorite ones, and it's something that I try to like do in my own life. Customato spoke about when he basically got Tyson, or he started to build that relationship. He said, you have to create a spark, and then you have to feed the spark, which turns into like a flame. Keep feeding the flame, and then it turns into a fire, and then keep feeding the fire, and then it turns into like a roaring blaze. And he was talking about how you build someone's confidence. Basically, you tell somebody, oh, you're doing great. And I remember Tyson talking about it, how I think at the time he never quite realised that what Customato was doing was building his confidence. And I think he said when he first met Customato, he was saying, oh, you're doing great, you're great. And he kept thinking, why is this guy telling me I'm doing great? I've never been told by anybody in my life I'm great at anything. So yeah, really smart bit of psychology.
That's brilliant, and I like hearing you say it. Like I can that word for word, that is exactly the quote. I can remember it. I remember Customato saying that in that exactly right. Brilliant. And his other one was how to use fear, fire and fear. They're the same thing. You can use them to your advantage, which is a great one. So what about any of these? If you've got any movies or books or boxing movies, books or podcasts that you would recommend?
I think, I mean, obviously Rocky, definitely. If you've never watched Rocky, you should. I watched a really good documentary the other day. I think is it The Four Kings?
Four Kings, about the
Yeah.
the four Brits.
Yeah, The Four Kings. So it's got a Eubank Senior. It's got Lennox Lewis.
Yeah.
Who else?
Nigel Benn and Frank Bruno.
Nigel Benn, Frank Bruno. There we go. Yeah, I watched that the other day. Me and the missus. My missus actually loves boxing as well. I actually got her into boxing.
Yeah, great.
And she'll quite often like message me and say, "Hey, have you seen the undercard for this?"
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, "No, I've not even seen it." So she actually, yeah, she like that's actually one of the things me and her like look forward to when there's a big fight on. Me and her will sit down, like we'll get snacks, popcorn,
Brilliant.
like maybe some wine, whatever, and we'll watch the boxing fights.
My girlfriend had never watched a boxing match before she met me, and she's not into violence at all. And it's amazing how you can bring a neutral person to a new sport. And she came up with a phrase when we were watching a fight. It was actually Usyk v Fury, I think. And she said, it's really interesting for these guys to have a good contest. It's like they need a dance partner. And I was like, that's literally what people say in boxing. You need a dance partner. And she came to it naturally herself. So it's quite fun.
It's do you know what though? Like generally, I think women are very observant, and probably more observant than us men. Right? They pick up on things that we miss. So having somebody who's never seen boxing, who's a female to watch it, she'll be picking up on things that we probably are missing.
So like over the years for predictions, I send her a screenshot of the weigh-in of both guys standing next to each other, and I say, pick who's going to win this. She's 8 from 8 so far. She's got it right every single time, just because of the weigh-in pictures. It's amazing. But okay, so what about? I know I see you in the gym, and you're one of these guys who doesn't listen to music when you're in the gym.
Yeah.
But so what's your favorite entrance you've seen in the pro game, and also what would be your entrance music? Or what was your entrance music?
Yeah, I so in the amateur boxing, I don't think you don't walk out to any music in the amateurs, because the amateur boxing it's like a sport. There's a lot. It's a lot of like. It's not as showy as what like the pros is, but when in MMA fights, I did walk out to music, and I think it was 50 Cent.
Solid.
What's the song? I'll tell you right now. I know the lyrics to it.
You can rap it if you like.
I don't know if everybody wants to hear that. It's where he says, "I'll whip your head, boy." That's
what it's called.
Yeah, "I'll whip your head, boy." That's it. That's the name. Yeah, that's what I walked out to. Gets you in the zone. Absolutely pumped, because when you're walking out to that ring, like your adrenaline's going, because you're about to get in and fight some other guy who's been training for how many months to go and fight you. So
that's a great tune. It's a great tune, and I've never heard it used in boxing. I've never heard anyone use that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really like it.
What about any you've seen in the pros when you're watching and you think this is good?
So I mean, Prince Nazim used to have quite interesting walkouts.
Yeah.
Obviously he was an entertainer. I still love when Tyson used to just walk down to the ring, like no music, just he had his like sort of bodybuilder top on, towel over his head, just get in and get it done. Like I don't know, there's something raw. Serious about that. Raw, exact. That's the word.
Yeah. Apparently, sometimes before those fights, he would say, "I don't want any music. I want to be intimidating on my own." And they said, "No, you've got to have music for the show." And also, he wouldn't have a dressing gown. He would literally take whatever hotel he was staying in. He would just take the towel from the bathroom, rip a hole in it, and go, "Right, let's go." Like he wouldn't even have a gown prepared or anything.
I love that. I love that. On ring walkouts, the one that comes to my mind that I think is quite funny was, do you remember when Deontay Wilder walked out in that weird costume against Fury, and then he he then even like used that as an excuse because he said it was like it's too heavy or whatever.
Well, I tell you one that people forget about, but in May when Usyk fought Fury and Usyk comes out in that Cossack warrior outfit, you remember that green?
Yes.
Unbelievable. And like nobody remembers that. And now you see a little clip of it on the highlights. That was a goosebump moment when you just saw what he looked like there.
I think, and my missus has said this as well, we actually think Usyk could easily be an actor. He looks like an actor.
Yeah.
When he came out in the Hitman outfit at the what do you call it, the press conference, that was brilliant. And I think he's got a real character, a really good character.
Yeah, he's you got to be some sort of, you got to find flaws in someone if you don't like him. You know what I mean? He's a good guy. Zane, that's brilliant. We've done 30 minutes. That's fantastic. Like, what are your social media? I know you like you're growing on LinkedIn and you're mainly Instagram, is it?
Yeah, Instagram. So it's I'll send them over to you, but it's at the Live Fit Coach.
Yeah.
For my Instagram, and my LinkedIn is just Zane Powell. My name.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So we'll put that in the comments as well.
Perfect.
Is there anything like? I'm fascinated in your insights. So is there anything that we talking about that I didn't mention?
I mean, we've not spoke about the big fight that's coming up very soon.
Yeah, the thing is, like, we're trying to keep these fresh. So go on, quick prediction, one line.
Usyk.
How?
Knockout this time.
Nice. I agree. Can't wait for that one. All right, Zane. That is brilliant.
Amazing. Thanks.
Take care,
See you in the gym, David. Thank you.
Bye-bye.